Alright, greetings, fillies and genticles, 'tis I, ThePureNote, and today I'm going to be reading an Aegis shield story called How and Why. This is possibly the most confusing thing I've ever read. I haven't read it yet, actually. This is my first time for me. It's going to be unedited, by the way. I'll just read the description. Let it... I just can't even explain this. This is the description. An elderly Twilight Sparkle goes back in time to tell herself to stop studying. Seems pretty just basic, right? What is the point of knowing how life works if you're not there understanding why it works? Let that sink in a bit. Yeah, I'm vaguely understanding that description. But there are two chapters. One called How and Why, obviously. Another one called Dear Princess Celestia. Alright, this is How and Why. How if it was loading? How if it wasn't prison? Alright, before intermission. Alright, I'll say it again. This is How and Why by Aegis Shield. Twilight Sparkle knew a lot of things. Many things. So many things. And sometimes Pony even stopped by the library and asked her about them instead of checking out any books. She didn't mind. She kind of liked it, really. She was the smart one. The one that they relied on. She spent a lot of time studying every day, like it was her job. Princess Celestia had ordained her to study the magic of friendship along with anything else her heart desired. Twilight harbored the secret fantasy of that maybe the princess was grooming her for some sort of higher station, but she never voiced it, not even in her secret diary. A mere dream could, though. She had to turn down tea time with Rarity a few times, of course. There was a good number of books on tea ceremonies from Nepal to be studied. Of course, she couldn't always go out to help Fluttershy count the bunnies and make sure their tails were fluffed properly. Hibernation patterns and population control via food chains didn't study themselves, you know. And sure, she wanted to go out with Applejack on a picnic, and then she had sort of been seeing that about matching her up with Big Macintosh. I'm gonna read that again. She wanted to go out with Applejack on a picnic, and then she had sort of been seeing about matching her up with Big Macintosh. That was smoother. But the Purple Mare was much too busy learning about plant genealogy and how to and what produce made what product and why. She could do all that just in her comfy little library. The list went on. Twilight always had plenty to read and plenty to study, and plenty that needed learning, and there was no end in sight, not ever. She delighted in it, soaking it all in like a great big sponge. She wanted to know it all. She would know it all someday, and then when that happened, she would be the smartest and most helpful pony ever. History would remember her name as Twilight the Clever. The last Twilight had been Twilight. The last Clever had been Clover the Clever, but Twilight could be a clever too. One night, the Purple Mare leaned over a volume of Illustrious World of Instant Photography and the growing industry around it. While she read by candlelight, she felt a sudden tug on her senses. Her magical radars went off, and she stopped. Looking up, she blinked a few times. Spark. Crackle spark. A bright light formed itself in the middle of the library. She backed away, wide-eyed. Papers loosed themselves, swirling about in a magical circle, emblazoned itself with purple light on the floor. Symbols danced across the walls and through the air like arcane snowflakes. The magic smelled of worn leather and perfume and lavender flowers. An elderly mare suddenly emerged, hacking and coughing as she leaned over on her staff. This is gonna hurt. "Who are you?" Twilight gasped, rushing to light a lamp and bright full light to the library. "Are you okay, ma'am?" I'm all right, dearie, thanks. That was, I don't know. The elderly lavender mare smiled in a tired way. I took a little more out of me than it used to. She coughed again, fluidly, leaning on her staff a bit more. Sorry. I haven't used that spell in 60-some odd years. What did I say, days? Twilight helped the elderly mare to a couch, taking her staff and leaning against a wall. Taking her shawl and hanging it up, she returned with a glass of water. What was that? That was a spell. Beautiful. I could see all the symbols so clearly. It takes unbelievable skill, Twilight complimented, smiling as the elder mare gulped the water thirstily. Well, with enough time and practice, you'll learn it. Why am I doing this in a frickin' Rainbow Dash voice? I'm just gonna continue like this isn't even happening. She sighed a little mysteriously, cocking her head. But that's why I'm here, then again. She turned and, with a bone-cracking pop, bore her shriveled flank. Twilight gaped at her cutie mark. It was her own. You're... Yes, you. But you can't be. You're so old. Twilight pointed at her. You must be 84, thank you very much, scowled the purple mare, pawing at the gray streaks in her hair. It just ended abruptly. Oh well. A little further out than next Tuesday. Nay? Nya ha ha ha. I don't get it. She slapped her knee, leaning back and looking around. Oh, this old library. Such memories. She looked around fondly. But... Twilight was having a bit of an overload. Herself? Her old, shrivelly, 80-something-year-old self? But why? You used the time travel spell. I swore I'd never do that again. It's too much of a headache. You'd be surprised of what 60 years will do to your opinions, Philly. I've been here more than a few moments, Elder Twilight said, gesturing to herself. Rest assured, I extended the spell to last a few minutes, but that's all I got. You gotta listen up this time and not blabbermouth. Twilight closed her mouth, and she remembered the last time she'd gone back in time to warn herself about something. She hadn't listened to herself, and then caused all the events that were making her so miserable by worrying about it. She determined to listen this time. Yes, she whispered, sitting on her couch. I'll listen this time. Good girl. Elder Twilight took her tiny little glasses off the end of her muzzle, putting them away with a sigh. I'm here to tell you to stop studying so hard. What? Twilight gasped? Oh well. But quit flapping your gums this time around. Elder Twilight snapped. Sorry. Twilight fell silent again. You know what I know, Twilight sparkled. After 64 years of studying and bookwork, the old mare leaned back sorely into the couch. Twilight's eyes grew huge, ready to see even the atomic secret. The accumulation of her life studies was there to tell its secrets. Eee! I'm not doing that. Not a darn thing. At the beginning, she said, you know what I know now. Sorry. What? Twilight said, staring at her open mouth. The more I learned, the more I saw there was to learn, said the wrinkled mare with a sad sort of smile. I used up my whole life learning and learning and learning some more. Everything I did showed me there was more out there. Yeah, isn't it great? Twilight grinned, nodding knowingly. No, it isn't, the old mare said, pushing some of her gray mane out of her eyes. It isn't great at all. She heaved a shuddering sort of sigh, as though she were trying not to let tears start. Twilight frowned in confusion. What could be greater than seeing bigger and bigger horizons and learning? Twilight, I came back in time to tell you what's going to happen to us. She turned, wiping her eyes briefly. Why do you look so sad? Twilight said slowly, sliding closer to her old self. We became the smartest, most learned mare in Equestria. Although Twilight said with a small smirk. Princess Celestia was so proud, and she voiced it often. She did? Twilight said, her face lighting up. But at the same time, life slipped us by. All of it. Elder Twilight sank into a sad hunch. What do you mean? Oh, that did my voice. What do you mean? I go with my friends. I have adventures and stuff. Twilight said, cocking her head. When was the last time you went out on a vacation? Or kissed a colt? Or went down to a party that wasn't Pinky's? Elder Twilight wanted to know. There was a long silence. Twilight wanted to answer, but she wasn't sure about any of those things. When was the last time you told Princess Celestia no? Or sat in a bar? Or got on a train without knowing where it was going? Never. None of these things, Twilight said, frowning curiously. Why do you ask? I don't remember either, because none of those things ever happened to me. Elder Twilight sagged further, tears brimming into her gaze. Her old, flabby-featured face quivered for a moment. As she held the bridge of her muzzle, she sniffled. Twilight put an arm around the quivering old mare. I wasted my life. Twilight? She turned, tears suddenly going down her wrinkled face. I thought knowledge was everything, that books were everything, but they're not. Sorry. I thought I could live life to the fullest if I knew how the world works. She broke into sobs, burying her face into her hooves. I should have been out there trying to figure out why it works. I was such a fool, and it took me over 80 years to realize it. Twilight stared at her future self in existential horror. Never kissed a colt, not even been kissed. Never gone on vacation anywhere at all. Her entire life was going to be book learning and nothing else? No, Twilight gasped, starting to shake with fear and revulsion. That's not me. I go out sometimes. I do stuff. I have friends that love me. You have a little circle of friends that eventually grow apart from you because you're so clustered in yourself. I'm not sure if I said that right. The elderly mare rubbed her eyes, sniffling. Turning them away too often, they drifted away. Rainbow Dash became a Wonderbolt and stayed one for 30 years. You weren't there when she was crowned captain. Fluttershy became a vet and moved to the city that needed to help the most. You weren't at her medical school graduation ceremony. Twilight's eyes grew wider and wider as her friends' fates were revealed. Rarity even moved to Canterlot to open a chain of fashion shops, and you never even got back together for her tea. You were too busy with your magic studies. Ever the busy beef of a scholar, never faltering, not even for a few days. They turned, looking into each other's eyes. So much time wasted. So much. She sagged forward again, weeping softly. Too much. Too much. Twilight began to shake. Her whole life laid bare before her. All her studying, it all amounted to nothing at the end of the day. Didn't she even get a nicer job? Or was she elected court vizier for the princess? Nothing? She just turned into an old, lonely mare with nothing to comfort her but her books? No! Twilight flung herself onto her belly, sobbing wildly. No, please, it can't be true. I don't want it to be true. Elder Twilight vanished from existence suddenly. No pop, no flash of magic, no nothing. She simply ceased to be. There was a light, sad, sagely smile on her face before she went, though. Had the spell worn out? Had she gone? No. The time travel spell was too big and flashy when it wore off. It couldn't have been that. Where had she gone to? Twilight rushed to the door, flung it open, and stepped into the crisp February night. Hello? She called out into the darkness. Hello? She shrieked. Future me, are you out there? Hello? She peered this way and that, but the wrinkled mare was gone. There was a great silence. Was that real? She whispered, going back inside. The staff was gone, the shawl was gone, all traces of her had vanished. It had to be. I touched her. She felt real. The purple mare looked down at her hoof. She went over the photography book, reaching gently close to it. She went to her couch and sat for a long time, staring at nothing. My whole life? Wasted? On study? She pondered. After about half an hour of sitting and thinking, she got her scarf and left. God, my throat hurts. Applejack was helping set the table like usual. Granny Smith was leaning over a nice gathering of mashed potatoes, corn, beans, peas, and stuffing. What? They grew apples for a living. It wasn't like it wasn't like them. They had them at every meal. That would drive any pony crazy. Setting out plates at the big family table, she leaned and put the salt and pepper shakers in the usual place. Appleboom went by in the background, showing Big Mac her homework. She wasn't allowed to have dessert if she didn't have her homework done by dinner time. That was the rule. There's a quick, panicked knocking at the door. "I'll get it," Applejack said, turning. She went to the den, opening the door. There in the dark, standing on the roof, was Twilight Sparkle. She was panting, sweaty, and she looked exhausted. The farming mare wondered why she worked up a sweat in February cold of night. She must have run all the way from here. She must have ran all the way here from her own place. Wrong tense there, Aegis. "Twilight?" Applejack said, surprised. "What in tarnation are you doing here at this hour?" She eyed the fretful purple mare up and down a few times. Twilight looked tired, disheveled, and the scarf round her neck barely clung to her body. "Oh, Celestia!" The poor scholar was not used to running such great distances. She leaned on the door frame, rubbing the snot from her nose. Had she been crying recently? Oh, shit. I just gave myself a head rush. Ooh. Anyway, where was I? Had she been crying recently? Applejack. Oh, the gods. Give me a second. She held her breast, gasping loudly and trying to gulp air. Her lungs were on fire. Twilight, you look as worked up as a jackrabbit at a dog show." Applejack looked her over, mouth agape. "What's gone into you?" Is Big Mac home?" Twilight demanded. "Tell me, is Big Mac... Oh, God, my lungs. Tell me, is he home?" The purple mare was holding her poor heart, running all the way across town, just about killed the poor thing. She was a librarian. Oh, shit. Give myself another head rush. Damn it, Aegis. Not a track star. Big Mac? Yeah, sure. Twilight turned and looked over her shoulder. Applejack turned and looked over her shoulder. "Big Mac, come quick. Twilight's gotta see you." The Crimson Stallion looked up from Appleloom's math homework, gently setting it down on the dinner table. He emerged from the kitchen, slowly lumbering towards the front door where the two mares... What's this all about, Twilight?" Applejack cocked her head with a slight frown. My future self came back to the present and told me to quit studying so hard and start living life better because I wasted it all." Oh, hang on. No, I'm not going to repeat that. I'm just going to mess up another head rush. Twilight managed a whole sentence. She'd almost be passed out because of it. She went back to She went back to her panting and hacking. "I coasted myself and I missed out on my whole life. I don't want to be a shriveled up, wasted no pony." There was a long silence, then... "Beg your pardon?" Hold on, I need a moment. Applejack took a moment to process all that. Then she got a look at that halfway between annoyed and accepting. "You know what, I believe you just 'cause you're Twilight, you know what? I believe you. Just 'cause you're Twilight, I believe you. Big Matt stuck out his head curiously from the door and smiled a bit shyly. Yup. Yeah. Yup. Better. He asked Twilight his usual lazy, natural expression became a happy one when he saw her face. What a nice surprise to see her. Big Mac! Oh, nope, I did that wrong. Big Mac! Without warning, or waiting, Twilight Sparkle leaned and kissed him. Really kissed him right on the lips. His eyes bulged, and he turned a darker shade of scarlet than normal. Applejack gaped in shock. Clatterthump. And close enough. Twilight crumbled into the ground in a heap, passed out from the lack of air. She held her breath during the kiss, and she had already not had enough oxygen. There was a silence. She lay there on the stoop, lungs heaving even in her unconsciousness. Brother looked at sister. She looked back at him, before quirking a brow. Huh. A kiss is all it takes for you, huh? She's more than swoon. She's plumb passed out. She smirked, elbowing a bit. Come on, you big galoot. Let's get her inside. Need to do that again. I had to do it deeper. Big Mac was a little stunned, but quickly agreed. Yup. He shoved his great head under Twilight's carriage and then hefted her on his back. They took her inside. The end. Kinda. I just need to see what the other chapter is. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Ooh, found it. Ooh, it's like a epilogue. Okay, I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna do it in my voice because my throat's hurting enough as it is. Dear Princess Celestia, today has been quite the breakthrough for me, both in my views and in terms of my studies. I know you've told me many times about the importance of friends, but even so, I'm quite simply prioritized my studies ahead of spending time with them. Today, however, I had a visitor that finally showed me what I was doing and what it would cost me. The visitor was myself, far from in the future. Age 84, and age 84 by my words. Edit that out, Spike. Anyway, she went on to explain that what my certain path of studying and decreasing level of socialization, even with my small circle of friends, could bring. After 60 years from now, I never kissed a colt. My friends and I would have drifted. My thirst for knowledge would never have been satisfied. So many things about the world, just living in it being the biggest, would have been beyond me. At 84, Princess, I basically used up my life. It took me that long to realize that I thought was my all-consuming purpose, in fact, hollow. I'm writing this after my other self vanished suddenly, hoping you know what this means. The reason for that is I've taken upon myself to now limit my studying time to an hour per day total, with exceptions made for specific assignments. Spike has it on record, and I commissioned both Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie to pull me out of the library by force should I fall back into my usual habits. Also, right after my other vanished, that's a good enough way to refer to her, I made my way to Sweet Apple Acres, and I finally kissed Big Macintosh, Applejack's older brother. This has led to an interesting and somewhat tentative series of dates. We've gotten to know each other a bit. So far, I know he has a very gentle demeanor. He is very smart when it comes to numbers and spatial relations. And he also has a soft spot for Mrs. Marty Pants, my old doll. We keep her safe since the episode with the wanted needed spell. Even brought her over after our first meeting, asking if I wanted her back. He genuinely seemed sad about the likelihood that I did, so I let him keep her, seeing as how much you've taken care of her since then. In conclusion, I'll still be sending you a weekly friendship report, and I must also send ahead that it will be a bit more informal in terms of data research. Beyond that, I wish to extend my invitation for you and Princess Luna to join me for some tea or stargazing in the near future. It took an addition day, but I realized how much I missed after talking to you in face-to-face. As such, the invitation is standing, and anytime you feel up to it, please come right over. Luna, well, she's as much as a friend as any of the girls. And I think I should spend more time with her. I'd rather have few regrets over the years as possible. Oh, as few. Well, I'm now off to party being held by the local DJ called Vinyl Scratch. According to Dash, it's the type where a lot of ponies go to get dancing and simply enjoy themselves while being around friends. This is also an attempt to expand my circle of friends, though Dash, Pinky, and Applejack. Sorry, had a little bit of a distraction. I'm going to restart that paragraph. I'm now off to a party being held by a local DJ called Vinyl Scratch. According to Dash, it's the type of where a lot of ponies go to get to dancing and simply enjoying themselves while being around friends. It's also a time to expand my circle of friends, although Dash, Pinky, and Applejack will always be going for me in the support. Wish me luck, Princess. Your faithful student, Twilight Sparkle. That distraction I had was someone entering my room. What I thought about that? It was originally confusing, but after you read it, it makes a lot of sense. Just bravo to Aegis. It was actually really, really, really fantastic. Yeah. I don't have a lot more to say about this, but hats off to Aegis, and hats off to everybody else. I bid you adieu, and have a good day.